Good afternoon once again, and maybe not such a good afternoon. What we're looking at right now is from live Osage Sky News 6. This is in southeast Osage County, just northwest of Tulsa. This is a shelf cloud, and along the shelf cloud, usually there's some strong winds being outflowing from thunderstorms, and so we're expecting some of that. Our storm tracker's on the ground. Von Castor, for example, he's been penetrating into this area, so it's about anywhere from 50 to 60, maybe 65-mile-an-hour winds with some of this, and you can see this leading edge and what it looks like. I'll get out of the picture here a little bit more so you can see that leading edge. This is coming toward the Tulsa area. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Tulsa, almost the entire county except South Tulsa, till 4:30 this afternoon. So we should end up with some rain. Well, we'll get the positive side is the rain. The negative side is some really strong winds, potential for some power outages. Plus, it'll be during a time period right when we're going on into rush hour. Now, we have a few other problems. Let's first of all take a look, links 4, and take a look at what's happening as a big picture. This is the warning right now for Tulsa. We still have our warning going on in this area back into southeastern Osage County. That is covering this line of strong to severe thunderstorms. And so along with this line of thunderstorms, we also have a couple of strong storms out near Stillwater, and then also another thunderstorm that's pretty intense right now near Grove, not severe. But the one that we're watching is right around Bartlesville and south of Bartlesville through really the south central sections and the southern half of Washington County. A little closer inspection on what's going on in this area indicates we have very heavy rainfall along this whole line, but we have strong damaging wind potential right now in the Oshaleta area. This is wrapped up, and we feel like if this isn't doing a lot of damage, it should be based on our radar calculations. We have Darren, who's just south of Ramona. We have JD, who's watching it just from the west. Our wind estimates right now on radar, this is above the surface, probably about 3,000, 3,500 feet. We can talk to Lacey in a few minutes about that. But anyway, we're talking about very damaging wind potential for you guys just on the south side of Bartlesville. This circulation feature right now is close to what we'd say wrapping up to potential for a tornado. Let's first go to Darren, who's involved in some of this area. He's just on the south side, a little harder for him to see. But Darren, give me a quick update on what you have, will you?
Yeah, Travis, as you explained there, as this leading edge comes through, you're going to experience winds anywhere from 60 to 65 miles an hour. Now, the side road that goes from Oshaleta over towards Barnesdall, there were 7.
Okay. And Darren, I think we just lost you on there. We're kind of losing you in and out there on audio. I'm going to come back to you in just a minute. But again, as you can see where Darren's located, what he sees. Also, let's go back to radar for a moment, and then we're going to come back to Darren in just a minute. As we look at this wrapped up, JD is also just kind of positioning himself for this storm. Now, this has been tracking southeast, but at this moment, it seems like the strength of it is holding pretty much on an east-southeast direction instead of a southeast direction. So it could be diving southeast, but there's still a lot of potential here. And this is Washington County, just north of Tulsa. So where Darren is located, and you can see how this is sliding to the southeast, and as it has so, we had it wrapped up briefly, but we do have winds that we think, and Stephen just mentioned it's about 2,200 feet off the ground. That's a ways off the ground, but we can say that the wind potential is near 80 miles per hour at least at Ramona right now. So there's 100 now it's pegging in at. So we feel very strongly this is a very dangerous place. We want you to move to an interior room immediately if you're close to where Darren is, and also in the Ramona area, because this is damaging potential that is extremely serious at this moment. So if Darren, I'm going to try you one more time, see what you got. Can you come back for a minute? What do you have? Nope. Frozen. Okay. All right, let's go back again, and we're going to go up to JD. I'm going to have a look from JD for a second. JD, if you could, can you give me an update on your situation? What's going on? JD?
Yeah, Travis, I'm on Highway 60, just east of Bartlesville. We've got tree limbs in the road, highway signs down. We're getting wind gusts around 60, 65 miles an hour, and very heavy rain, Travis. We're going to keep tracking this east. We'll sit back to you.
All right, so back to radar for a moment. Thunderstorm activity again. This is a strong damaging wind potential right in this area. And so in just a minute, we're going to go to Lacey with an update on the storm track specifically. But this gives us a pretty good idea. So a lot of lightning with the thunderstorm itself. This is the worst part. Now that'll be coming in. This won't necessarily be coming in Tulsa, but we do have a line of thunderstorms coming into Tulsa, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But this is the whole area of rain and thunderstorms right now. And Lacey has set up at this time a storm track for what's going on here. Lacey, if you would, can you get us an update on that, please?
Yeah, right now you mentioned it was moving more to the southeast, now taking more an even easterly turn, and that is typically what we see when we start to get some type of a circulation feature to develop. So on Lynx 3, let's show it to you, moving at about 40 miles per hour. I still have it including some areas to the south because I don't want folks in Oologah to let down your guard. Same thing in Claremore. Claremore needs to watch this very closely, but the latest track basically on top of Ramona right now, the north sides of Ramona, Tulsa at about 3:53, Oologah and Oologah Lake by about 3:50 to 4 o'clock, Foyle by 4:10. Now Pryor, if it holds together, by about 4:31. Now you can see this. I'm going to query some of this data. Darren is right there in the vicinity. It's basically crossing 75. That is not good news. You don't want to be in a vehicle crossing 75 or driving up and down 75, and we have winds potentially 80 or even 90 miles per hour. So damage is likely with this. This is actually the same circulation that produced a tornado just west of Ark City around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So that's what typically happens with this. You'll get the circulation, it will start to weaken, and that's what happened. It's cycled and it's ramping back up. Now, as far as intense circulation, we're not necessarily seeing that, but it is damaging winds. This would be a wind coming from the west, blowing to the east, and just passed through Ramona. Travis, basically the strongest winds look to be about a mile to 2 miles east of Ramona.
All right, and Darren looks like he is just really just right on the edge of that. And let's see, looks like he's, is Darren frozen yet? Nope, he's back. Okay. Darren, if you're with me, I don't know if you can hear me or not. If you would, let's try one more time. I want to kind of get an estimate of what you have. You there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Travis, you got me?
Yep, got it. Got it.
All right. I'm on 3500 road and 350 road. We're looking due north. The lightning intensity is really picking up on this, and I'm just ahead of that gust front, and I've been in and out of it all afternoon. But you'll experience 60 to 65 mile-an-hour winds. I've had to dodge a few trees that's fell down in front of me as I'm traveling to the east, Travis, towards Oologah. But very heavy rain, lots of heavy wind associated with this, Travis.
All right, Darren, we'll let you continue to be along that leading edge there because that is the most dangerous part of the storm right now is where the strongest winds are. Lacey mentioned that just a minute ago. As that continues, that damaging wind potential will be 80 miles per hour. And so far, Darren has reported, as he said, 60, 65 miles an hour. So that is a situation there. We also have Vaughn, who's further closer into the Tulsa area. He's right in the midst of some of that at this moment. Vaughn, if you could, can you give me an update? I know you've had 60, 65 mile an hour winds. What do you have right now?
Yeah, absolutely. All up and down the line, and I'm just to the west of Skystrip right now. Extremely heavy rain, very difficult to see on the roadway, but the winds are constant about at least 50 up to 65 sometimes.
All right. All right. So again, as we look at this line of storms coming across the area, this is we'll get down to close to real low visibilities. So you don't really want to be caught out in it. That will continue to track to the southeast. We have one other heavy cell that's starting to develop a little bit more around the Jennings area, Merrimack. These are all going to be tracking to the southeast. So as they track southeast, we will end up with these moving into the Tulsa area. Now the atmosphere in Tulsa is marginally unstable. This is just a very strong storm system in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which is really helping to create that problem. And as you look at our picture here on the left side of your TV screen, this is the live Osage Sky News 6 as we continue to fly right in advance of that. So he's going to keep an eye. Dustin's up in the sky right now, keeping an eye on what's going on with this leading edge. Now this is broken up just a little bit, where it was a little bit more solid just a tad bit ago. So the southwest sides of this storm don't look nearly as strong as what we have up with where Darren and JD are located. Let's zoom in back up into the north if we could, Lacey, and take a closer look at what's going on. So again, as you look at this bulging area, now Darren's right on that at this moment. So that's from Vera, and then you can see these winds. These are damaging wind potential of probably about 70, maybe 80 miles per hour. And this is more of a rural area, obviously. It's gone through Ramona now. It's gone through Vera, and now we're looking at it to continue to the east to around the Tulsa area. Darren's right on the leading edge of that at this particular moment, so he's going to be trying to stay just right in that vicinity. So if you are in advance of it, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about how this is going to continue to affect folks, but this is the worst part of the storm by far, and we anticipate if we could, if we have any hail shear markings or hail shear index, we'll take a look at that right now. And so Darren, and okay, let's go back to this is where Darren's located, and Darren also. Let's get to Darren with an update. Darren?
Yeah, Travis, you'll look real close in the center of your screen. It's becoming obscure, but there's a developing lowering feature right on the edge of this line, those quick little spin-ups that are also associated with this type of system. But it's still there. If you look real close, right there in the center of your screen. That's where it is, Travis.
All right. So again, it's kind of hard to see. The contrast is not super at this particular second, but we can see, and we'll take your word for it, obviously, as what's going on right in that area. So again, this is the location, and this is why, because this is bulging out. So this is coming in from out of the west, moving to the east. And so this is just to the north of the Collinsville area, just on the north side of Tulsa. And then that extends back on up to around, really just, we're only about 6 miles or 5 miles to the west of Talala at this time. So this is bulging east-southeast, and we're going to get a storm track on the whole line here in just a moment from Lacey. But what we're talking about right with this particular part of the storm is the worst by far. And as that continues to surge to the east-southeast, there's going to be numerous reports of power outages, so you'll most likely lose power. Don't forget, we are streaming live, and so when we're streaming live, if you lose power, you still have power on your phone, hopefully, and you're in good shape. But these are the areas that we're most concerned with. This would be southeastern Washington County, and this will be tracking to the southeast. Wind damage potential at 80 miles per hour, possibly could even be a little bit higher. Now, the whole line of thunderstorms, again, is tracking southeast. We do have warnings in Tulsa County, as we mentioned, till 4:30 this afternoon, with the exception of southeast, and that's Broken Arrow, Bixby, down to around the Coweta area. We don't have warnings yet, but the potential is there. And Lacey has a storm track on what's going on with these storms and what's happening around the Tulsa area. Lacey?
Right now, the track is basically out on the entire line, moving down into Tulsa County. As you mentioned, the storms just to the north and west of Tulsa have come down some. They are still severe, but that really intense, damaging wind is to the north, which that's what Darren is tracking. We just saw a big lightning strike there in Darren's shot. Let's go now to Links 3. Let me show you that storm track. I've got the entire line highlighted here, moving down to the southwest, still moving at about 40 miles per hour. But you notice to the north of Tulsa, where we had all the intense reds and purples as far as the intensity on radar, have now lessened down to more of a yellow and orange, so weakening, but that area up north is not weakening. So here's the latest track: Sperry by 348, Sand Springs by about 354, so here in just the next few minutes. OSU Tulsa 357, Berry Hill at 358, downtown about 4 o'clock, and Drumright by about 4 o'clock. Now this will continue to weaken as it pushes to the south. We are still really concerned though about this area off to the west of Tulsa near Jennings, headed down towards Oilton and Yale. That is severe, but of course we just keep talking about this area in Washington County because this is the most intense, and I'm afraid we're going to have some pretty significant damage coming out of this because this is bowing out. This is an area of circulation in the mid-level of the storm that was very intense earlier and is still very intense. It weakened as it moved across Osage County, but it is bowing out even further now as it pushes towards Oologah, Travis, and especially folks on Oologah Lake. They need to get off the lake and seek shelter.
Very, very good point. So again, if you have friends that are there, make sure that that's happening. Darren has an incredible shot, it looks like, as well. And we're going to talk to Darren in just a second. I want to get a shot just right now, if we could. We're going to kind of get a position from Osage Sky News 6. We're looking at his landing gear at this particular moment, but we're positioning him to kind of take a look. This is an outflow boundary. Lacey mentioned this just a minute ago too, and I mentioned, I guess, but this is fragmented a little bit more as far as the west-southwest sides of this storm. So it's not as intense as it was a little bit ago as that's starting to move to the south. Strong gusty winds though from around the Turley area to around Sperry area. We take a live look right now from live Osage Sky News 6. You can see that shelf cloud that's coming in, so you can kind of see what that looks like as it's starting to roll in on the north side of Tulsa, and that's in relationship to what's actually happening here. This is a great little moment here, I guess, of education. So you can kind of see this area. So this is green. This air is flowing into what we call the radar, but it's also strong winds of 40, maybe 50 miles an hour, and then that helps create just kind of a little boundary right along the leading edge, and that's what you're seeing with the boundary that's right there on our picture from live Osage Sky News 6. All right, let's go on over to Darren, though, for a minute, because Darren was into some pretty intense stuff, and we're looking at this moment. Again, he's stuck at this second, but he is in a position where there's going to be a lot of low clouds. It's going to be a very kind of scary-looking cloud situation with some of this, so he's not in a great place. Let's go to Vaughn for a minute and an update, but Darren's in some of the worst place, but Vaughn is continuing to are you still on Highway 20? I didn't look to check GPS for a second there, Vaughn.
No, I'm just dropping south. I just dropped south on the west side of Skytook, and it's not as intense here as it has been, especially from Highway 20 to the north, Travis. But we're going to drop south and then go back east and try to get ahead of this little bulge.
All right. All right. I appreciate it. So again, you can kind of see what's going on. So this is just on time. Severe thunderstorm warning going on until 4:30 this afternoon for the north side of the city. You can see Sky News 6 just on the south here. We're going to monitor this as it's coming into Tulsa. Not as bad as it was. This is by far and away the worst. It's located up to the north, and this is where Darren is located at this time. And let's go a little closer in on this if we could. And that bulge continues to be a great concern because of the strength of the winds that are coming. And many times it's just like you can see it, everybody can see how intense that is as that continues to blow off to the east. So wind damage potential of 60 to 70 miles per hour, maybe as high as 80 to 85 right in this area as it's gone through Ramona and Vera. And then Darren's right along the leading edge. I think Darren's back with us again. Darren, if you're with us, can you give me another quick update? Oh, okay. He's been, okay. Just stop there for a second. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go back to radar for a minute. All right. So look at some of these numbers that are coming in right now. So we peaked out almost at 100 miles per hour. And I mentioned a little bit ago, too, we're off the surface. So by the time you get down to the surface, many times that doesn't translate to the exact type of winds. Usually it's a lot slower. And there's reasons for that. We won't go into that at this moment, but it's just anything that's 80 to 90 miles per hour, about 2,000 feet off the ground, could be 70 to 80 miles per hour on surface. And occasionally it can be that strong too near surface, but for the most part these will be damaging winds with power outages likely in these areas. And so this is only about 5 miles from the core of the strongest winds to Oologah. So if you're Oologah, Lacey mentioned this, the lake, you have to be off the lake. You have to tell your friends to get off the lake now if they are on the lake, because these are some serious winds that are coming in across this area. Darren's in a position again. Do we have Darren back again? Okay, let's go back to Darren with another update. Darren.
Yeah, Travis, what you're looking at there is that bow feature. It's right on top of Oologah, maybe 1 mile out, and so as you said, if you're in Oologah, watch this storm. And then behind me, the feature that we were talking about earlier that had that little lowering feature has occluded. But the storm down here on the south side is the one that I'm eyeballing next. And I'm going to run across Oologah Lake right now, Travis. All
right. Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it. Again, you see the update of that shelf clouds continue to roll on across the area. So it's just blowing on in. That's a strong winds that are just kind of pushing in. And as that happens, it creates this shelf-looking cloud and more issues. Now, radar at this time still having most of the issues. And you see the magenta colors. When you're in the magenta colors, you get into some hail. Again, the least amount of hail would be the darker magentas, the lighter magentas, and then the black and the white get to the largest hail that we have. So it kind of reads from right to left on this. But so what we're looking for is just one cluster. It could have some hail associated with it. We have several warnings going on. Of course, the biggest one, and as we look at this is an area that's inclusive of Tulsa right now. We do believe that wind gusts of 50 miles an hour are very possible on the south side. In fact, we've still had 60-mile-an-hour winds near Sperry. So those winds are strong enough to knock down power lines as far as tree limbs and that type of stuff and cause issues. And we'll get updates coming up in a little bit. But the rest of the areas around Keystone Dam, not as serious. Sand Springs, not as bad. We have one more intense thunderstorm that's located out around the Jennings area. And we do have a warning at this time, and that is for Payne County primarily, and also showing up around the Yale area. And Val is in the areas from really Ripley to Yale, and then extending to around the Cushing area. So those are the areas. So we have right now we have wind gusts downtown at 47 miles per hour as this is starting to come into Tulsa. So winds are now into the downtown area, so we're just below severe limit. Severe limits is the upper 50s. It's just rounding kind of 60 miles per hour. And so once you get close to 60 miles an hour, we're under severe thunderstorm winds. But we still have our bulge going on in this area. And in just a minute, we're going to have Lacey do a storm track on what's happening on this particular bulge and what's happening specifically for here. But you can see where Darren is located. You also see Brandon, where Brandon is located. Is Brandon online right now? Okay. But Brandon shot, he does have it. If we go REM 33 for a minute, this is what it looks like as it's coming in. So I wanted to point this out, and you can kind of see how fast the clouds are moving. So he's watching this off of Highway 75 at this moment. So as you look at that, this is also kind of indicative, and he's starting to move now too, but the relationship to that, these are flying quickly as the wind gusts are probably about 50 to 60 miles an hour where he's located, because he's closer to the meat of the storm that's right in that area. So here we go. We'll take a look again and relationship to where he is and just south of Collinsville at this time. So he's on 69. Or 169, excuse me, and that's just south of Collinsville, just north of Owasso. That's coming in on you guys. So this is part of that strong part of the cell that has been strong. In fact, this whole cluster right in here, this is kind of a supercell as we call it, and that started up closer to Wichita, Kansas. We had tornado warnings with that up at Wichita, and then as it's moved to the southeast, we continue to have severe thunderstorm warnings with it, and it's still bulging out, so it's still a very powerful part of the storm. And so if you're around Tulsa, this is now in Rogers County, and we have a little bit more information from Lacey, who's watching this very closely. Lacey, what do you have?
Yeah, the track on it still moving to the southeast at about 40 miles per hour. So our guys are staying out in front of it, doing a great job doing that. Let me show you the track as this is working its way towards the east-southeast. The wind potential with this, I will say, might have come down just a smidge. Just a little bit. You still need to keep your guard up. This still could easily produce winds to 70, 80 miles per hour. Some of the radar estimates are still close to 80. That has come down from the upper 90s like we had just a little bit of go. But this thing has been cycling. Sometimes it'll weaken and tick back up. But in the latest scan, good news for folks in Oologah, it has come down some because a 70-mile-an-hour wind is a whole lot better than an 80-mile-an-hour wind. But the latest track, I'm kind of pushing it further to the southeast. Claremore by about 4 o'clock as it moves more to the southeast. May end up going just north of Claremore, closer to the Sequoia area. I think Foyle, you need to stay alert too in case this does track a little bit more to the east than to the south. Shoto by about 4:35 if it holds together. Now I think you're still going to get rain and storms in these areas, but as far as this intense damaging wind, that may go just to the north of you in Claremore. But it is weakening some. I would say this thing is not done yet, or not even close to being done. With a lapse on it, I'm going to take the storm track off and kind of show you the lapse over the last 15 minutes of where this thing is headed. See, it's moving more to the southeast, and you notice how those dark blues were very, very apparent over Ramona, and now it's more the lighter blue shades, so the wind speed's coming down some. That's excellent news, but it is still going. Travis?
All right, again, some spectacular shots. What is that shot on the plasma there, Michael? What is our shot there? That's the airport? Okay, can we take T4? Yeah. All right, there it is. All right, so this is coming in. So this is coming in over the airport right now. You see the rain or the winds. Watch this coming in right now, and you can kind of see what's going on the north side of Tulsa. So we're getting very, very strong winds. I don't know if this is level 4 or 5 shear alert out at the airport, but no plane's going to take off in this. You can just see it just flying across the airport runway. So yeah, and it is going strong at this time at what's happening. So this is coming in across the, I mean, it's kind of a beautiful shot as far as the sky, but unfortunately, again, you get the winds and the dust. It's all blowing. Then looking at some of that. So again, all planes are going to have to just hunker down right there for the time being as that continues to fly. This is on the north side of Tulsa, again, northeast side of Tulsa. So we're getting that coming in across the city at this time, and you can see the camera starting to shake now as some of those stronger winds are starting to blow on through, and then we'll start to get some rain coming in as well. Can you turn that camera to the right just a hair bit? I don't know if we have time to do that or not. But as we watch that coming through, you're also seeing the rain and everything. It's just typical. There's the trash. Look at all the trash flying down the runway now. You can see some white stuff flying down that runway. We'll get some wind gust estimates, but we're expecting a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust to be common with this as it continues to fly through. And then you'll see the visibility is reduced greatly too in just a little bit as that starts to happen. So this is pretty much a picture of what will happen across the north sides of Tulsa. It is happening across the north side of Tulsa, and your location as well. If you're in southwest Tulsa, not as bad. And also with the thunderstorms themselves, we'll take a broader picture of the radar if we could. Or no, you're in close right now. That's good. Let's go. Good.
Right over TIA.
Yep. Good. All right, so this is the international airport right in here, and so that's what's coming across across the airport and across several areas right now. And so you get the idea that the brighter green you see is the stronger the winds, and so that combination, you see how that has just been flying on in. I say that for an airport. And you see TIAS, Tulsa International Airport, so that's where it's located, and some of the strongest winds. And this is on the north side of Tulsa, so this also includes around 244 and back down to the south now, probably about down to, can you slide south just a tad bit? Yes, okay, we'll go to Darren next then. So this is coming across the city of Tulsa right now. As we said, we had 47-mile-an-hour winds here in Tulsa. And then let's go back up to the north. If we can, let's go to Darren right now. Here it is. And then Oologah, 70-mile-an-hour winds. Is that from Darren?
That's from Darren.
All right, Darren, if you can hear me, can you give me an update? What do you got?
Yeah, Travis, those heaviest winds just now came through Oologah, and there's not many times in all my experience where I've been tracking these storms, and I feel my vehicle, kind of tilt to one side or something. But sitting there waiting at that light there on 169 to go back towards Claremore, when those winds hit, I felt it. It didn't, cock it up or anything, but you can tell that it was a very strong wind, and the anemometer here clocked us at 71 miles an hour there in downtown Oologah, Travis.
All right, some power outages, some damage is going to be quite possible with that at this time. So just know that, again, the visibilities, look, Darren, those visibilities, what is that, quarter mile?
About a quarter of a mile, Travis.
Yeah, that doesn't look like much. So there's just tons of rain, lots of wind, and power outage potential is getting higher and higher as we go. Let's go back to radar with a quick update. No power in Collinsville now, so power just out in Collinsville. That has to do a lot with what's going on here with this system. Again, this is Tulsa. Here's the downtown area, and as we look at the warnings, we now have a new warning that extends all the way down to Shoto. This is for this system that continues to slide southeast. So this is the same one, and it has been moving from near north side of Pawhuska, basically, from Wichita to Pawhuska, then through Oologah, so we're getting that. And if Collinsville is out of power, I'll be surprised if Oologah isn't out of power. So this is just one of those storm systems wrapped up, just really intense. It's just like kind of a fist of Mother Nature just coming right through here, and you can see what it's looking at this time. So the strongest winds from the airport, Owasso areas down Tulsa International, and then that extends, and we have new warnings across these areas. And could you query those for the updates on that? You also have Brandon coming up. Okay, we can do that. And because the new warnings at this time, so we have severe thunderstorm warning till 4:45. That is on the ones now from Broken Arrow. So Broken Arrow, you guys are now under the warning as well. And then also we have a warning. They're both 445s, okay. And so so this will continue until we get these storms out of here. But the worst is on the north and northeast sides of Tulsa, Owasso, Catoosa, and now to the Broken Arrow area. We could have some 50, 60 mile an hour winds. Let's go to Brandon, who's right near Tim at this time. I think Tim's also, is Tim on 37? But let's go to Brandon first, if we could. Brandon, go ahead. What do you have?
Yeah, Travis, right now here on east on 20, just to the east of Limestone, very intense rainfall, a lot of ponding on the roadways, and the winds are very strong, in excess of 50 to near 60 mile an hour gusts at times, Travis. But there's a lot of extremely heavy rainfall, visibility down to a quarter mile, and cloud-to-ground lightning also associated with this, Travis. Back to you.
All right, Brandon, thank you very much. So the same story playing out in multiple locations here as this storm continues to track to the east and southeast. And the power of this storm continues to show up. Let's go back to radar for a moment, and you can see where Tim and Brandon are located. So these are very, very strong winds with this. So we should, I haven't seen very much damage, which is great along here. But this is now through the Keatonville Hill area, Keatonville and Limestone areas, and that's where Brandon's located as well. So Tim and Brandon kind of close to the same spot. Darren's just to the north of them, and so with the winds of 60, 70 miles an hour, Darren reporting a top speed of 71, that will be enough to cause some issues. Now the leading edge of this now is all the way into Claremore. So this is all the way into Claremore, and then extending back on just west of Sequoia. You guys are going to get hit here in just a minute or less. And there's a cell right in this area. I had a request on Facebook to look at Pryor. Well, you guys are coming up next for the potential for severe weather because the Pryor area is going to be close. It's officially in this warning. So if you are in the Pryor area, probably within the next 20 minutes, you will have a severe thunderstorm rolling in your area. We still have very heavy downpours of rain, Spavinaw, Langley area, and then also on the north side of Grand Lake, north of Ketchum. But the worst of the weather by far is in this little cluster right here, and just going on from Tulsa to the northeast sides of Tulsa. And then we do have scattered showers and thunderstorms that continue as we track to the south. Sky News 6 is right along that, and you can see the outflow boundary from some of that. Now the ones that are on the southwest side, these are still very strong, heavy rains, gusty winds, but not as intense, and so that's a little bit different. Then you have one of the heaviest thunderstorms located between Olive and Oilton, so much needed rain. We're not going to complain about the rain. It's just too bad. It has to come with all the wind and all the potential damage, and so that's an issue right there. Let's go to T1 if we could for a moment, and then T2 after that if it's possible. Okay, here's T1. All right, so this is off of 169 right now as that's starting to come through. And so this is looking at Tulsa And as you look at this, about 31st to 41st, and then you're looking back across the city and what's happening right here, and you see it shaking, and then that's just the line of thunderstorms coming through. We are under severe thunderstorm warning.
At the airport, we did get or not the airport, at the Mesonet site in Tulsa, we did get a measured wind of 51 miles per hour
51?
as it was moving in.
Okay,
Yep.
good. And then I'm going to ask you to get a storm track if you could, too. We'll come after to you back if we could. And then traffic 2. If you can see that coming in, this is from around the Woodland Hills Mall area, and so this is the leading edge of that as it's continuing to push back to the south and southeast. And so as that's continuing to move on through, and again, it's during getting close to rush hour. Rush hour, we say, starts about 4:30ish, and so some folks are leaving at 4 here are going to get caught in some of this. We haven't had any ponding. I mean, there's going to be ponding of water on the roadways, and there's enough heavy rain that could actually slow things down as well for some of you guys. Overall, though, it's just a really intense thunderstorms at this moment. We do have Brandon. Let's go back to Brandon for just a minute, who is also. Brandon, looked like he had some pretty strong winds. Right now, the trees don't look too awful bad. What are the, nope, so the winds are about 50 to 60 in some of those areas, but you can see some of his winds aren't as strong as they were. It still looks like almost like a blizzard going on there. Darren's been along the leading edge of that as well. And let's go back to radar for 1 minute. And I want to point out something here. Where Darren's in the thunderstorms, Tim, Brandon are into the thunderstorms right now. JD's on the north side where it's not quite as intense. And then Vaughn is right from the Tulsa International Airport area. Hopefully he can get us a few reports of what's going on there. And then as well, where Darren is, and then we're going to go to Lacey with an update. Darren, can you give me a quick update on winds and what you have right now?
Yeah, Travis, up here on the northwest side of Claremore coming in, up here by this Spencer Creek, Blue Creek area. The winds have backed down a little bit. We're running 55, 56 miles an hour right now, Travis. So we're going to keep tracking this as it moves into the Claremore area.
All right, and it is rolling right on into Claremore. Speaking of which, Lacey has the latest update on where it's headed. Lace?
Still moving to the southeast. I will say even that batch that Darren is tracking, that cluster of storms that actually has been very severe with those intense winds, is also tracking to the southeast. Do want to let you know we did have a report at the airport officially of 59 miles per hour at Tulsa International Airport. That's what you were seeing live on our traffic camera there just a moment ago. Do want to take you to the storm track though and show you exactly when this will be moving in to your hometown. So Claremore, Darren just mentioned it, it's moving through Claremore now. This will be arriving in the Glenpool area by about 4 o'clock. Broken Arrow by about 4:11. So in about 5 minutes moving into Broken Arrow. Now in Broken Arrow you can expect 50, maybe 60 mile an hour winds. So very severe and much more intense wind up near Claremore where Darren is located, kind of taking you down the line towards Sapulpa, Mounds, Bristow, down to Stone Bluff. Stone Bluff moving in by about 4:25. So that's just kind of in the immediate area. I will say once you get basically to Highway 75 and west, these storms are falling apart pretty rapidly, but it's that area of very intense winds, Travis, up near Claremore that we're watching closely.
All right, thanks. And yeah, I'm a little depressed on the storms falling apart out west because I kind of wanted some rain. And so we're going to get some rain out of it, but as long as it doesn't get as crazy as what's going on now on the east sides of Tulsa. So with the leading edge of the thunderstorms now, and as Lacey was giving us storm track, as that continues to track to the southeast, just about everybody will end up with some rain. But you see how fragmented it is in this particular area. You also see live Osage Sky News 6. We picked up some fuel to make sure we were in good shape, and we're going to get those guys to kind of move off to the east a little bit to check this out, as our guys are getting bogged down, and this happens many times when you have strong to heavy thunderstorms and very, very heavy downpours of rainfall. You can see it east of Collinsville right now. Let's see, I've got, who is that? That's Tim's shot, REM 37. Is that tree down? What is that? He's got a tree down. Okay. If we go to REM 37 right now, Tim is on this right now. And he mentioned, I don't know what that was. Is that part of the tree? Oh, it's digitized, looks like. That's what it was. Okay, so and it's Brandon? Okay, let's go to Brandon on 33, REM 33 if we could. This on Keatonville Hill. And so we do have a tree that blew down in this area. So we're down, looks like one lane traffic. I'll get the picture here so you can see it. One lane traffic. We anticipate that to be the case quite a bit just because of some of these winds. And of course the trees are, just full of leaves and everything else. So that's just a lot of restrictions there and trees taking the force and brunt of the 70-mile-an-hour winds, so that's going to happen. But that's Keatonville Hill area on Highway 20, sitting just between the Collinsville area and Claremore area. So if you're in those areas, you can see how they're just letting some traffic go through a little bit at a time. So that's going to be a problem for some folks as we go on. Darren, at this time, still having some incredible winds and everything else. Darren, what do you have for us?
Yeah, Travis, just here, just the north side of Claremore on Highway 88. These are as strong, or if not stronger, than the winds and the rain back over there in Oologah just a few moments ago. We had a gust here at 73 miles an hour to the north side of Claremore, Travis. But luckily, I haven't seen any power poles snap, no power flashes, nothing like that. Just, there's a tree down right there in the roadway. But other than that, Travis, it's just kind of intense out here with these heavy rains and strong wind.
All right. Once again, as Darren is saying, with those strong winds, let's go back to radar for a moment. I mean, some folks are stuck in that, and Lacey just put some data up for us. And this isn't that far off the ground right now because we're close to the radar side, getting closer. And so maybe we're 600 feet, yeah. So we're pretty much on surface, and so we're right at surface level, or just off the surface. So at this point, it doesn't matter. So this is the core of that storm once again that's causing all the problems. And if you're on the north sides of Claremore, you're going to get hammered by this because you can see this is where Brandon and Tim are both stuck because of the tree on the road. And then you can see where Darren's located. Darren's trying to get ahead of it a little bit, but that's going to be hard to do. He's right in the middle of it. And then you can see the strong damaging wind potential right here. Also, shear swath, do we have some of the shear rates and what's going on? So, okay, so he's real close to it right in here. And so that is still wrapped up. Can you put that in motion for a second, see how that plays out there? So the strongest ones went over the south end of the lake from Oologah and then extending back down to where Darren is located. So that means it should continue from Foyle to Claremore and back to the east-southeast. So if you're in these zones, we do want you to stay away from the outside windows. It's always best to do that. Now, I don't see any of our trackers have reported any hail with this, and it has been very, very limited as far as that. But the wind and the heavy rain, the lightning and all that continues to be one of the major problems for the area.
We do have a pretty significant damage report now coming in as the storms pass through Ramona. Several power poles down, roof blown off of locker room at Ramona High School, and a semi blown over on Highway 75 near 280 Road.
Okay.
So that is significant damage, and that's what we were seeing on radar. Winds easily to 80 miles per hour through Ramona just a little bit earlier.
All right. So that so this is the same thing, same part of the system that has come right from Ramona and then back down to the southeast. So this was we're really kind of surprised that hasn't happened. So again, that's one of the issues that we have right now. So if you are in these areas from where Darren is located back to the east, we want you to be careful. And what we're going to do is, if you could, let's zoom in on that area a little bit more and get more velocity data, and then we're going to go back down and take a look at the broader picture in a minute. So where Darren is located, he's coming in on the north sides of Claremore at this time, and you can see where some of the areas from the Oologah Lake, this is all just very strong damaging winds now. So this is all obviously under severe thunderstorm warning. This will continue to track Sequoia, Foyle, Bushy Head, and extending back to this east-southeast, and then getting really as it crosses, it should be just from around the Chelsea area and back to the south a little bit. So this is tracking east-southeast. So as it goes, it's going to be kind of diving a little bit to the lower right-hand corner of your screen and then Harmony Star area, east side of Claremore, Will Rogers Downs. So these are the areas that are going to be hit with the highest probability of strong damaging winds. So even though it might be a tad bit weaker, you just heard Darren mention that the winds are seemingly as strong as they were just a little bit ago. So with this in mind, this is probably the core of the worst of the storms by far. Our warning continues till 4:45, is it? Right? Okay. And that will continue to track to the southeast. So we could have some issues as this moves southeast a little bit further. Radar indicating still that we have shower and thunderstorm activity across this area that is very heavy as far as heavy downpours of rain. So what you see with the dark reds and even a little bit of the purple magenta colors that are there, that's just excessive amounts of heavy rain that's going on. And as you look at the rain rates right now, these are very intense rainfall amount rates. So this is like just deluge. I mean, it's just like you can't see, and that's pretty much what Darren is having at this time. And then you can also see some of the damage reports coming in here as well. So as this continues to track to the southeast, this is going to be the main part of the storm. Is the worst is right over Claremore at this time. This is where the warnings are extended down to Choteau at this hour. Also prior, you guys are still lined up for the potential there. We have again probably just from Catoosa, a thunderstorm, and then we have one cell that's kind of popped up right around the just southeast Jinx north of Bixby. This is the outflow boundary from these thunderstorms. Notice there's none of the yellow blinking that you see there, and there's no warnings southwest of Tulsa at this time, just some moderate to occasionally heavy rainfall, and then the gust front coming across this area. But damage now coming in and reports showing up power out in Claremore for parts of the city, and we'll be getting reports of how much power is out here shortly. In fact, I'll have one of you guys check on that in just a second. But from the Catoosa area, Verdigris area, Claremore area, these are all the main impact areas where we're going to get the worst. And remember, streaming live, we're doing that now, so you're able to see what's going on, even if you lose power at your home, even if you can't watch Channel 6 on TV, you can just, you just have it in your phone, you have it available to you at any time, especially during these severe weather events. As you see, some of our storm teams are where they're located. I want to go back for a moment to Vaughn has been in the middle of most of the storms, and he's been stuck kind of now behind some of that. But Vaughn, I'm going to come to you for a moment and get an update. You're in Tulsa, just south of Tulsa International Airport, where it looked like we had 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds. Can you give us an update? Have you seen any damage, any power issues? What do you have going on?
Haven't really seen a lot of damage. Of course, there's a lot of leaf debris around, and the traffic is very, very heavy. It's early in the rush hour, so just take it easy on the roads. They're very slick with all the rain that we had. But so far, so good with the lack of wind damage, Travis.
All right. Well, good news on that front. So again, there was just one swath Lacey was making a note of with the reports that came in, right? Unfortunately, and Darren mentioned it too. He was talking about how that was a little scary with his truck, because not too often does he have his heavy truck starting to be picked up a little bit, and he said he had that, and so he was aware of how strong those winds were, and apparently right in the core of that is where the worst of it was, as we were tracking that across Highway 75. So as you see Vaughn's video, you can see that the rain is lightened up considerably, and so he's repositioning right now. Also live Sky News 6. Osage Sky News 6 at this time. He's taking a look across the areas of Tulsa and looking on the, he's in Coweta right now. So at this time, Dustin is looking back at that storm as it's starting to come into the Tulsa, or the southeast sides of Tulsa area. And that'll be coming in, really we have 2 cells on the southeast side, and that includes the areas from around, just around Bixby, north of Bixby, south side of Broken Arrow, and then also on the east, northeast sides of Broken Arrow from north of the NSU campus in Broken Arrow and extending back on up through the Claremore area with some of the heaviest rain and thunderstorm activity in that zone. So as Dustin continues to kind of track on up to the northeast and follow the main part of that storm, these other parts of the cells are not quite as intense. And we can go back to Lynx 4 for a minute, and you can see like where he is located. So he's near Coweta at this moment. And then we have the heavier cells, as mentioned, near Bixby, and then Tulsa Hills getting some heavy rain. So all this is good rain. Nobody complaining about that. Here's that outflow again. So the strong gusty winds have already gone through Glenpool. They're down to Mounds. They're in the Bixby area. And then we have the heaviest thunderstorms now on the east sides of Tulsa and southeast sides of Claremore. So this will be the more intense parts of the storms. We're still going to keep an eye on what's going on out west, but if you're to the west, this is not as big of a deal as what it was earlier. And so this is still the big deal. And that's why we're getting Dustin repositioned on Sky News 6 a little bit closer into this area. So this is the area that we're looking at. This is still the more intense areas, and we're still looking at problems across this region. Also with the strong winds, and you see a couple. This is moving in on the radar side, and then with the winds as strong as they are, we're going to go to Lacey in just a minute for another storm track update for the whole line. But as you can see, Darren's moving through town right now. We have Brandon and Tim in these areas, and still winds in the Claremore area, 70 miles per hour potential. Then that extends on up to around the Foyle area. And again, pockets of a real intense lightning going on for some of these areas. And then we also have some wind damage potential in advance of it. Overall, though, this is the main core as it pushes to the south and to the east. Let's go to Darren, and then I'm going to go to Lacey. Darren, you're in town right now, so see any damage right now in Claremore?
Yeah, Travis. I'm going to back up on Highway 88 and 470 Road to my west. As I was going through there, lots of debris in the air, both leaves and insulation. Fast forward to Highway 88 and Blue Star Road. More debris in the air. Rogers State University, many trees down on the campus. The power is out on the west side of Claremore all the way down to the middle of town to about the Reesers and the AutoZone area, Travis. But as you continue on east through town, there are several trees down on the east side of Claremore along Highway 88, Travis. Back to you.
All right. Wow. All right, so this is still a very, very dangerous situation. Lacey's going to give us an overall view of those storms and what's going on with the whole line, and then we'll be back with more specific information. Lacey?
Yeah, still moving to the southeast. We put the track basically on the part that is very intense that Darren is talking about, and also on the outflow boundary where the storms are weakening south of Tulsa. So we've got a radar update since I drew this last track, but it's still accurate. So moving towards Inola by about 428. Inola, you're going to get the bulk of the wind, along with potentially Choteau and Pryor. Okay, moving to the southeast at 40 miles per hour, heading towards the NSU campus. Now you could have winds to 45 at the NSU campus. Same thing with Coweta and Haskell, all the way down to Oktahah. But it's the areas that are further to the east, like Wagner, that we're concerned about, and Fort Gibson. That is where that intense area that was a circulation area that is now a damaging wind potential is still headed. So Darren is staying right there with it. He's going to continue to do that as it's pushing to the southeast. So I'm going to zoom on in a little bit closer and actually pause this lapse, turn on the velocity data, and then you can see where those strongest winds are. Folks in Foyle along Highway 66, don't want to be out driving in this. You saw Darren's shot. You can't see because of the rain, and the wind will try to rock your vehicle. So winds 65 to 70 headed towards Justice and eventually down to the south and southeast towards Inola. Now, just looking at the lightning count, whenever I take the broad view and kind of put that into lapse mode, the lightning count has come down. So that's good news. That's likely because that area over Tulsa and back to the west is still trying to fall apart. But Travis, this area that's basically running from just east now of Broken Arrow back up through Claremore just south of Chelsea is still rocking and rolling right now.
Boy, it is. And still getting reports, 60-mile-an-hour wind report just coming from the airport at Claremore. And with the debris in the air, I'm sure that would mean maybe some barns or a few shops that were right in the core area of these strongest winds probably sustained significant damage. And we'll be moving Osage Sky News 6 into those positions after we get through this severe thunderstorm. So as we look at what's going on right now, the strongest part of these thunderstorms continue across southeastern Rogers County. So our warnings continue from Pryor, Choteau, and then back down to now to Fort Gibson Lake. We do have at this moment JD's on the north side of these storms. He's catching up with them and going to be more positioned to kind of catch on the north perimeter of what's happening. Also, Darren's right in the middle of it. Darren, if you could, let's see, his video's froze right now. Let's wait just a minute. We have there's the warnings again. So here are our warnings, and so those extend now down basically almost to Fort Gibson Lake. So this is the worst. The one that's moving through with the severe thunderstorm warning right now for Broken Arrow and then extending through Coweta. This isn't as bad, but the wind gusts are still maybe 50, maybe up to near 60 miles an hour. That'd be enough to knock out some power. This is all the northeast and east sides of Tulsa, Claremore area, and as I said, from Chelsea back to the south and west. This is diving southeastward, so you can get the general big view of what's happening. And once you get to the west of Tulsa from Jinx and then extending further to the west, we just have hit and miss shower thunderstorm activity. Here's the outflow boundary from the rain and the showers is already pushed in advance of this area. Power outages amounts now, Ramona area, 1,200 customers without power. Owasso has 1,000 customers without power. Tulsa, 2,100 customers without power. And these numbers are going to climb on the east into Rogers County because they just got nailed. So that's bad. You see some good rains out around Bristow Creek County once again. Jinx, kind of Glenpool area getting some rain. This is all needed rain. Unfortunately, again, it's come with some price, especially on the north and east side. But this is the leading edge, so now the leading edge is all to the south. Let's go to Lynx 1 if we could for just a minute. This is pretty impressive too. These are the temperatures. Look at 65 right now in Bartlesville, 66 in Tulsa, 80s in advance of it. So we're seeing a temperature drop of 15 to 20 degrees as those thunderstorms come through. This is part of that cooler air we preached about as well. This is the upper level system that's coming through and knocking those temperatures down. We'll have stronger north winds. It'll be much cooler tonight and all. We'll talk about that in the forecast later on. But this is part of the impact of some of those thunderstorms. And this is the whole upper level energy that's coming through that's really creating all of this. I call it a mess, but it's been good rain minus the wind. All right, back to radar for what's going to be the most intense part part continues to be to the east, now almost to Pryor, closing in on what's happening at this moment. You can see the rain and thunderstorm activity, some of the most intense lightning now from around the Foyle area to just north of Harmony Star. And let's get wind shear if we could on there and check that out. And so we still have that now. That's just to the west of Pryor at this moment. We also have it down to the south of Inola, some strong winds. So all these winds should have been averaging right around 50 to 60 miles an hour across a lot of this leading edge area. And so as these winds, and this is kind of interest to us too, is the fact that as this is going over a radar site, and so as it's going over the radar site right in here, the air is flowing this way. And so as it flows this way, it changes colors because at a time it's coming into the radar and then it's going away from the radar. So these are winds that are going away from the radar site, which is located west of Inola. And so we're getting down to an area just west of Maisie. I don't even know if, I think I've been through Keith, and Keith doesn't really exist. But anyway, it shows up on a map. And if it does exist, I apologize for the home or two homes that are there. But we still have winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour along this leading edge in the southeast portions of Rogers County. And then, of course, into Mays County now. We're all the way to Choteau, and then that extends to Pryor. But by far and away, the stronger winds continue to hover from where Darren is located. I want to get another update. Darren looks like he's not as bad a shape as he was before. Darren, what do you have for us?
Yeah, right here along Highway 88 South, Travis, coming up on Inola, or Talola, Kiowa, excuse me. The winds aren't bad here, 40 to 45, and, I've got 3/4 or, to a mile visibility. But that most intense core is over by the radar site from me, and so that's where I'm trying to get is back in that core. Get you some accurate visual relations. Back to you.
All right. Hey, thanks, Darren. Appreciate that very much. As we continue to monitor what's going on, we do have, if we could, I think we've got a frozen picture on REM 37, but if we could just briefly take that on there. Again, it's not very good quality, but this is more tree damage that's going on. Guys are out there working right now, men, women. I say guys generally speaking, that are busy trying to get that taken care of. And that's just one of many pictures of what's happening across the area. Also, the rain and thunderstorms continue to move at a pretty good clip. Vaughn is, we're kind of getting our storm trackers kind of just around the Catoosa area, but I'm going to go to Vaughn for a minute for a quick update. Vaughn, any other news? Or so far, everything still look normal? Any power outages that you see?
Not really. Of course, I've just been on the main road, so I cannot verify any of the. There could be some damage here and there. I just have not seen a whole lot. But I'm just getting ready to enter the backside of the strongest part of the wind because I'm on 412 here, just west of Inola. So I'll get back with you as soon as I enter that area.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So again, he's not that far away from, again, the core of the storm. So severe thunderstorm warnings continue across the area. Line of thunderstorms continues to roll across areas. You can see how it's just not quite as intense. It's in South Tulsa. We'll take the rain. We'll take the rain, and so will Creek County. And Val's on the far west side of it, but it's now moving in, and Ron's down by the Muskogee area, as well with some cells that are just developing now along the turnpike. Let's go to Lacey with an update on the storm track, if we could. Lacey?
Storms moving to the southeast. We've got a storm track now, that most intense core. It's the same core we've been talking about since we started our coverage. The storm that actually produced all that damage we spoke about just a little bit ago in Ramona. Right now, the track's still taking it towards Choteau. It is moving into Choteau right now, basically moving into Porter by 4:37. This will be moving into Fort Gibson Lake and the area of Fort Gibson by 4:45. So we talked about Oologah Lake just a little bit ago. If you know anyone out and about on the lake, make sure you're calling them, you're texting them, you're letting them know, hey, getting in a cove isn't going to cut it. You're going to have to get off the lake, as you should with every severe storm. But this one with the wind, that is not somewhere you want to be. Also out near Salina and near Spavinaw, the south side near Sportsman Acres, I would be concerned too. Make sure folks are paying attention there. Further down to the south and east, here's your storm track. Fort Gibson Lake again, 4:45. Okay by 4:50. Holbert by 4:55. And let's see, Fort Gibson, Tahlequah by about 5 o'clock. So it is still moving down to the southeast. We're starting to see now the area of rain that had really intense dark reds and purples, meaning the intensity was just blinding as far as the rain is concerned. We're starting to see that let up a little bit, and also in velocity we're starting to see that let up just a little bit. Still severe, but we are not seeing the 80 to 90 mile an hour radar estimates that we were seeing a little bit ago. So that is definitely good news, but we're continuing to track it. Of course, our trackers and helicopter just right there keeping an eye on it too. Travis.
All right, thanks, Lisa. And again, as you look at that storm storm track. We have multiple areas of rain and thunderstorms, and I want to point this out, is that you see some of this activity that was around the Grand Lake area was there and then kind of pulled up, but we have additional that's coming in here. And then we have the main cluster that's caused all the problems. And then we have some additional thunderstorm activity developing from Muskogee area back on up to Coweta. And then we have our trailing end of rain. Now, the severe threat for Tulsa is pretty much out of the picture at this time because we're clearing Tulsa, clearing Washington County, Osage County, clearing that, and also Pawnee County. So no problems for you guys. But this line of thunderstorms, and you can look, in fact, we can take the shot full, guys, if we could, of Osage Sky News 6. That'd be awesome for a minute. So as we look at what's happening with the cells, again, this is on the east side of Tulsa. Now, where we're located is Sky News 6 is just on the east side, southeast of Choteau. He's looking at that leading edge as it's still coming in. So you can still see the rain curtain associated with this. This is a shelf cloud. This is the strong winds that are blowing out towards the Choteau area at this time in southeastern portions of Mayes County. And so we still have winds. In fact, one of our guys at the Claremore Airport at this time reporting 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts that went through there. They are subsiding a little bit because that's just gotten through there, but still we don't think that has changed a whole lot. So we were still going to see 60, 70 mile an hour winds with this leading edge as it continues to fly into the area. These are the skids from the helicopter, just in case you're going, what is that? So that is part of what's happening across areas just to the southeastern and southern portion of Mayes County. So you guys still have potential for a lot of power outages. This is the new warning area. This is a huge polygon. You look at this covers really the southern 2/3, I guess you could say, of Mayes County, southwestern portions of Delaware County, northwestern Adair, Cherokee County, northern Muskogee County, and then extending back through most all of Wagner County, and then southeastern portions of Rogers County. So you got a lot going on, a lot of flashing going on, but you get the general idea. All these flashing areas that are to the north, these will expire at 4:45. We might see a few of these expire sooner since we have the new warning in effect, just because this is now a lot of this stuff right up in here in Tulsa County has expired because the storms have passed through, so it's not as big a deal. Back into the area, shower and thunderstorm activity continues across areas from around Tulsa and then to the south and east. Again, the Tulsa area, other than southeast Tulsa County, not too much going on. Most of the heavier rain and thunderstorm activity is on from just southeast of Bixby. We're just barely clipping part of southeastern Tulsa County with a severe thunderstorm warning. We have moderate rains going on now south of Glenpool, Mounds, and then back over into Creek County. But what we want to focus on is from Tulsa back to the north and to the east. This is the outflow boundary. This is the leading edge of the strong winds now into the Choteau area. Darren is getting closer to getting into that. We'll get to him in just a minute. But Darren is just, some of our guys have had to get back behind it just because we had to cross the lake. And then we also had to get into positions where we could be in better position and be safe, obviously, as we're driving, because we don't want to hydroplane either. So let's zoom in from Pryor, if we could, up to around the Choteau area. And so Pryor is just kind of on the north side, some of the heaviest of the rain and thunderstorms. Lacey mentioned lightning strike indicators, too, are going down a little bit. So we do think that this is weakened considerably compared to where it was, but we still have very strong potential winds right into this zone where we are in Pryor. So with the wind potential running at about 50 to 60 miles per hour, some areas could be a little higher. We're at Sportsman Acres right here that you see, and from the Lust to Choteau areas. And this is areas which should have 50 to, and where that's what is showing up, then maybe there could be a 60 mile an hour gust in a few of these areas. From the industrial park from around Pryor and extending to Choteau is probably about 50, 55. And then a little bit further to the south, as you see from Rocky Point, and then extending back down to the south of Neodesha, we're looking at winds that are most likely about 50 to 60 miles per hour again. And so we're staying right in that leading edge. So there's still severe winds and potential across this area. And now we're into northern portions of Wagner County. So we've moved from Coweta east. And so this is where the strong winds, and Claremore. So Coweta, Claremore, now kind of behind the system. Now we're a little bit further to the east. But this gives you a pretty good idea of the winds coming in on Wagner. So if you're around the Wagner area, you can experience some very strong damaging winds and some power outages. And we're going to be having some new power outage update numbers. We also have our newscast coming up. All of our reporters are out covering it. At this time, we do have heaviest or strongest winds, again, just on the northwest sides of Wagner. If we could look at a wind shear and see if we can see anything as far as, so we still have some locations that have strong winds. This isn't anything like what it was when we were getting reports of 70 to near 80 mile an hour winds. So we're down to near 60. And so this makes a huge difference. And you can see where we do have near Pryor and then just kind of right along the leading edge, still holding right around 50, 60 miles an hour. That's why the warning is encompassing such a huge area from the National Weather Service. And you see Sky News 6 as well continuing to cover. Let's go back to for a picture, if we could, and see what Sky News 6 is looking at for a minute. Along this edge, and then some of the strong winds now just on the south side of Pryor. And here's a view from up high above. And as we look at it, again, the shelf cloud is not as prevalent. I got to make sure I'm looking at the right part of the thunderstorm as Dustin continues to move around. You're going to be able to see part of that thunderstorm and what's going on there. That's our transmitter, by the way, that clear ball. Tulsa is now at about 6,000 customers without power. 6,000 customers, newest update. And that would be mainly on the, most likely, the northeast sides of Tulsa. This is looking just southeast of Choteau, and that's the leading edge of it as it continues to be strong. OG&E from Sapulpa is reporting 225 customers without power. Grove with PSO at 68 customers. Turley, which is in northern Tulsa County, 647. That's a lot. Turley's not that large of a community. Owasso is just under 1,000 customers, 981 being reported right now. So as you can tell, we've been hit pretty hard with power outages. But there you see the shelf cloud giving you, it's beautiful as if you're not underneath it and don't have to deal with wind and losing power and trees and whatever else, trash cans. So just realize, though, that that's still rolling right along. Back to radar, and then we're going to have another storm track from Lacey in just a second. You can see our guys in the positions where they are just south of Pryor, still the strong winds. That extends now just from getting down to the lake. So we're just on the north end of Fort Gibson Lake, and then that extends down to just north of Redbird and Porter. And let's go to Lacey with a quick update on what's going with storm track. Lacey?
Right now, they're still tracking to the southeast, still moving at about 40 miles per hour. So earlier when we did have some pretty tight circulation, everything started to lunge to the east. That's definitely not the case now. We don't have rotation. We keep getting asked following the Facebook Live that we're doing right now, and folks keep asking any tornado threat. That's not what we're seeing. This is damaging wind potential. In fact, Travis was just talking about that most intense cell being just south of Pryor. We do have reports of winds 66 miles per hour right there. So that is very much severe, still could be doing damage. So that is why we're continuing to track this. Here's the latest track on the storm pushing down to the southeast. Porter by 4:39, Haskell about the same time. Fort Gibson Lake by 4:42 and Taft by about 4:50. Muskogee by 4:58 and Summit by 5 o'clock. Now the warning, of course, still going until about 5:30 because that's how long it's going to take for these things to continue to wind down. Still continuing to see the lightning count come down some and velocity come down too, but just because we have everything weakening doesn't mean it's not severe. Very much severe south of Pryor. Okay, that's basically going to be right here at this intersection of 69 that I've got zoomed in on. This is the area where the winds have been the most intense. This is the area where we're still getting gusts close to 65, 70 miles per hour. That is moving to the southeast. So Choteau, get ready. Locust Grove potentially moving towards your area, and further down the line, basically Maisie. We keep saying Maisie because that's where the strongest winds have been, and you can still see them down towards Wagner. So Travis is coming down because just because we don't have winds to 90 miles per hour like was the potential earlier doesn't mean that we need to just completely let our guard down with this just yet.
That is correct, and we just have some more information coming in as well, and that is with some power lines down on Highway 88, which is just back to the north and west of Claremore, and East 445 Road. So that'd be back up in this area where Tim is located right now, and that's about 4 miles north of Claremore. We do have power lines down on the road, so again, that's blocking Highway 88 at this time, so no travel there. Keatonville Hill, though, is back to open. We did get They did get the trees cleared out, or the big tree that was there. So that is cleared out. So Keatonville Hill and just to the west of, near Keatonville right here. So we've opened Highway 20. I keep saying we. They have opened Highway 20. Trying to take credit for that. That's not it. Anyway, rain and thunderstorms continue across areas to the east. So this has cleared the Tulsa area. So for Tulsa, we're in pretty good shape now that rush hour is going to be happening. The exception is going to be far southeast Oklahoma, or southeast Tulsa County. And really Broken Arrow, we're getting still some light to moderate rains going on. Most of the thunder lightning happening from just south of NSU's campus, then through the Coweta area, west of Coweta, back down to south of Bixby, Leonard area, and then that extends back down just south of Glenpool. Nice rains there, as well as to around the Mounds area, and some nice rains going back into Creek County. So blessing for that, because I was hoping for a lot more rain than what I ended up with, and I don't think I probably ended up with too much with this band coming through, but every drop's going to help, because wait till you see the forecast once we get at 5 o'clock, because there's some, it's summer. And so we still have some issues to deal with. All right, severe thunderstorm warnings continue, though, for this area. That's just, you can tell where the main bulge is, right in here. So we've cleared out Tulsa County. And so as you see, as we look at this area, this is, again, that biggest broad area of covering a bunch of real estate, extending from southeastern portions of Mayes County and then extending back on through Cherokee County, with the exception of Lake Tenkiller. But this will continue to track to the southeast. This has had a history of traveling from the northwest to the southeast. And as it has done so, in fact, we can take a look right now at live Osage Sky News 6, guys, if we could. So we're looking back into that. And so this is what Dustin's looking into right now. And so you can still see the bottom sides of the clouds, flat bases on that, and the shelf cloud area that's right in that area. And so that continues to move in our direction as far as moving across areas from really to Cherokee County. So this is going to be the thunderstorm line. Lacey mentioned it. It's not over with yet. We still have 60, 66 mile an hour winds associated with it. It's still severe, and it's still going to be a pain or a problem here, it looks like, for at least another 30 to 45 minutes. And that probably will take us almost to our newscast time, it looks like. So we're talking about, again, with this area of thunderstorms, the atmosphere isn't quite as unstable to the southeast, but it's still pretty impressive for what it's doing, that we kind of thought, it'll kind of weaken a little bit more. It's weakened, but it hasn't weakened all that fast. And so this leading edge is still what we're concerned with. I'm going to go up to Darren for a minute and go get an update from Darren as well. Darren, you've been going through portions of Rogers County now, and I know that you're on the east side of Claremore, well east of Claremore. So tell us, do you see anything else? What's going on around Choteau? You there, Darren? I hear you guys. I thought I heard Vaughn talking there, but Darren, are you there?
Yeah, Travis, go ahead. Just turned south on Highway 69 here on Choteau, and as I've been dissecting this line of strong winds along 412, it back between, maybe 4 miles west of Choteau, had a gust of 63 miles an hour, and so the trend is coming down. But one thing I wanted to point out as I'm traveling, motorists are doing a good job there. Some of them are pulling over on the shoulder, to wait till the storm passes. But a few of them aren't pulling over all the way, and they're sticking out in lanes of traffic. And when the visibility is as low as they are, it could it's a recipe for disaster there. So if you're going to pull over, make sure you get over as far as you can, Travis. I'm going to continue southbound here towards Wagner.
All right. Hey, thanks, Darren. We have about 6,100 customers now in Tulsa without power, and about 10,000 just in Green Country as an estimate of how many customers are without power at this time. So that's a big, big chunk of real estate. A lot of folks got to have them losing the lights during the afternoon. But the air conditioner isn't quite as important today, because temperatures are going to fall in the 60s to 70s as that line of thunderstorms moves across your area. As you're seeing right now, warnings are in effect at this moment across southeastern portions of our area. Lacey's going to do a storm track for us and give us an update on what's going on there. So again, we also have winds that have just hit Whitehorn Cove of about 50 to 60 miles an hour. Just getting reports off of Facebook, and that's the Fort Gibson area. So again, potential for tree limb damage, trees, power lines happening. Lacey, what do you have?
Yeah, right now I've got shear rate that I'm looking at, kind of putting this together to put together a storm track. What you can do is take this out and we can see exactly where the leading edge of those winds are. We can look at this several different ways. It's just one way to get that leading edge. So we mentioned Pryor, so just the south of Pryor. Now it's to the southeast of Pryor, down to Porter, south of Wagner. So I'm taking this out at still about 40 miles per hour. They haven't really picked up in speed. This is the latest track, and it looks like not a lot if you're looking at radar right now. Well, look at this. We put on reflectivity where you can see the rain and then also the velocity. So Muskogee by about 4:55, Fort Gibson at about 5 o'clock, moving into Holbert at about 5 o'clock, Tahlequah by 5:15, and Tenkiller Lake by about 5:26. So same drill there with Tenkiller Lake. Not a place you want to be. These storms have very intense lightning with them. We keep talking about the very heavy rain, blinding rain, but we have seen these storms do some pretty significant damage. Now that was when they were much more intense up near the Ramona area, basically Washington County, moving down towards Oologah. that is the area where they were the most intense. And if I zoom out a little bit and kind of take this back to a lapse for the last couple of hours, you can see these storms as they've progressed, okay? And we had a lot more lightning within the line, was much more defined, started to bow out, and we started to see those storms produce that damage over Washington County. Now weakening, but still holding together. So that is why we are continuing to track these. Do want to zoom in a little bit closer. You can see Vaughn now. Vaughn is just to the east of Choteau. Vaughn is on 412, staying up with basically the bulk of the winds. If we can get an update from Vaughn. Vaughn, if you are with us, if you could give us an update really quick on what you're seeing.
The winds have definitely picked up. I am just now coming up on the prior industrial park here right off of 412, and we've definitely had some gusts between the 50 and 60 mile an hour range. So this is where some of the highest winds are. So anybody traveling on 412 right here in this area, you can take it slow and cautious, Lacey.
Okay, that's an excellent point because we keep talking about the ponding on the roadway. That's one issue. Haven't seen much in the way of hail reports, so that's excellent news. But what we are seeing is still the damaging wind. So still rushing off towards the east, zooming in a little bit closer into Wagner, Travis. That's kind of the area that we've got the more intense winds that have still continuing to pulse up. So kind of pulse up and then pulse back down, but still easily winds to 60 miles an hour moving in on Wagner. That's going to be coming in from the west, blowing to the east. So could potentially impact the west side of your house. If it's blowing down a tree limb, could bust out a window there on the west side of your house, Travis.
Okay, and that is so true. We also have, so far traffic has been okay around the Tulsa area, and I don't know if we could go ahead and take our traffic, max traffic, if you guys have time to just pull that up for a second. We do have on the Wagner County area of, and this is extending really in an area that runs right now from the east side. Now I have it set up. Hang on. Yeah, just hold her there. We're live on the air. And I'm going to just bounce out. And if you guys can put me back on top of that, that'd be great. We're looking at the Creek Turnpike eastbound just south of Admiral. Inside lane is blocked. That hasn't stopped traffic though. So far we're okay. So as we look out and again from the creek and this area, the traffic is still moving. But we did have some very strong winds come across this area. And so that has slowed down some of the traffic, but the rain is now subsiding in the areas of East Tulsa, so that's the only thing. So again, this is a Creek Turnpike eastbound south of Admiral. Inside lane is blocked, but I don't see any real slowdowns there, so there's some good news there. All right, back to radar and shower and thunderstorm activity. Still the severe thunderstorm warnings and still the potential for damage and power outages along this leading edge now in southeastern portions of Mays County. Then that extends now across the lake, so we're just running across Gibson Lake, Fort Gibson Lake, and then that goes down into Wagner. We've kind of seen a little increase, a little popping up a little bit more. It's just south of Coweta now. So we're getting back into, you can see some lightning intensities have started to pick up in this area. And then we still have rain and thunderstorms down around the Muskogee area. This is, even though we're under a severe thunderstorm warning right now, we really don't have any super intense winds with this particular zone. We do have still, though, with this potential for 60-mile-per-hour winds along leading edge. Lacey, if we could come on in, zoom in, starting down around the Wagner area, and then we'll go up along the line once we get in about city street level, if we could almost. And so we can see a little bit. So again, this is in the Wagner area. The stronger winds will be running just in advance of that. And then we're down to Taylor's Ferry at this time. And so right along that edge, and then the Fort Gibson Lake area, you guys, hopefully you're in a safe place at this moment as winds continue to be running about 55, 65 miles per hour. And some power outages, so we're still getting reports from the news of those causing issues. And then as you look right along the edge from just east of Yonkers, that's extending down northwestern portions of Cherokee County and far southeastern portions now of Mays County. So we're really pushing well to the south and east. So we're almost through the Mays County area. And you see Vaughn still on there. Lacey was just talking to Vaughn about some of the information that's going on there. We're at Locust Grove, heavy rain. Lightning strikes still intense, thunderstorms still intense, but not quite as bad as what it was. And this is along Highway 412, so still a few issues with that. And so if you are traveling, just be advised that if you allow yourself a little extra time, these thunderstorms will be getting out of here before too awful long, and then we'll probably be in better shape. But right now, still severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, and they're going on. And as you look at this whole broad area, this is the leading edge of it. And Lacey was doing a storm track on that just a little bit ago, and that runs again from just Salina to Rose, then extending around the Fort Gibson Lake area, so around the Hobart area. And we'll go back to Live Osage Sky News 6 for a minute because I want to take a look back up into what's going on. And Dustin has that. You see the rain curtain, kind of the fuzzy look right here. The shelf cloud isn't as evident, so we do feel that there is some weakening going on, but heaven knows we need that after what we've been going through for the last couple of hours with the strong damaging winds across the area. Also, as we look at this, though, with the heavy rain still going on and winds still 50 to 60 miles per hour, we're still anticipating some of those issues in this zone. So if you are just along the leading edge of that, and that would be now near Hobart, it is over Fort Gibson Lake, so we're pretty much looking at the line, and you can see how salty that looks. It's just pretty solid right now, and as that continues to show up right in there, we'll look for continuation of winds occasionally gusting to 60 miles per hour. The dynamics, the structure aren't quite the same as what they were before, but they are still worthy of being noted. So we do want you to make sure that you are pretty much aware, or not pretty much, but you are definitely aware of what's going on with that, because we do anticipate this to weaken a little bit more with time. But right now, severe thunderstorms continue across this zone. All right, back to radar real quick, and then we'll get an update because we're getting close to newscast. So we want to kind of get some more information going. Shower and thunderstorm activity. Again, running right along this leading edge. You can see where Darren is located around the Fort Gibson area. Darren, I'm going to get an update if I can from you. I know your video is kind of coming in and out, so he's okay. Vaughn's right in that area too. Okay, we see Darren's video. You can see he's kind of in and out a little bit, but traffic is going fine. This is along 169, or along 69. At this time, he's on 69, just north of Wagner, and but we haven't seen any damage to speak of. Vaughn is in an area which has had quite a bit of strong winds. Let's go to Vaughn for a second and get an update from him. And Vaughn, if you would, one more update because you're in the midst of it. It looks pretty salty where you are too. What's up?
Yeah, I'm in the strongest winds I've been in all day, and I've also got hail now starting to fall. Small hail, but nonetheless, we got hail falling. Lots of people that are stacking up underneath the bridges, and that's going to cause an accident if they don't get over, like Darren said earlier, far enough. But these are the strongest winds I've been in. I'm going to say 65 miles an hour with blinding rain, and then we got a little bit of hail mixed in, Travis.
Okay. All right. So there is some hail reports finally coming in. So that is, we've had minimal hail reports, which is good. Because when you have 70, 80 mile an hour winds, the last thing you need is golf ball size hail, because that just shatters everything. We're looking again at his video. You can tell just what it looks like. So this is that leading edge. That's what we're looking at live on Osage Sky News 6. We're going to be going to Lacey in just a moment with another update on the storm tracks and what's going on with the storms as they start to track to the east. But as we look at the velocities and how this is pushing out now, we've already gone through Peggs. We're moving toward the Gideon area. We've gone through Lost City. We're to Hulbert now. So this is again where Vaughn and Darren have been located and are continuing to have these reports that have been coming in. So you get a pretty good perspective of how strong these winds are and what's going on with that. Also, want to point out, as this continues to track, it's moving southeast more than it is moving east. So we're still on the north perimeter, though, and it looked like we were barely going to hit Pryor, but we hit Pryor pretty hard. Looked like we had at least 55, almost 60 mile an hour winds, and they were just barely in the warned area. So there's still some strong wind potential on this north side, and the warning goes pretty much to just around the Lake Uchee area, south of Lake Uchee, and to Bull Hollow, and then extending just from Rose and then Leech right along 412 to Little Kansas. But if you're even on the north side of this, don't be surprised if you get some 50, 60 mile an hour winds and maybe some power outages or some tree limbs down because this line still is going across the Grand Lake area and has potential to have some winds near severe limits. But this is the bulge that just continues to blow and go across the region, and that should make it all the way from Hulbert and then be near Tahlequah. So if you're in Tahlequah, that should be headed in your direction momentarily. We should have that going on. All right, Lacey has an update on the storm track. Lacey?
Yep, still tracking southeast, moving at about 40 miles per hour. Let's take a look at it on the storm track on Links 3. So kind of still including that northern edge, yes, where the damaging wind potential is still very much present. So moving at about 40 would put it in Rose here in just the next 5 minutes. Tahlequah at 5:05, Braggs by 5:12, Tenkiller and Tenkiller Lake by about 5:27, and then Westville by about 450 or 550 rather. So moving to the southeast as it continues to do so, the lightning count continuing to come down some. We're starting to see much more of the greens and the yellows mixed in. So that's indicating that the rain is starting to fall apart. So good news there. Still blowing out though on the north side. So from Holbert to Rose, that's where we're going to have the most intense wind. Not to say down by Muskogee and OK and Fort Gibson, you're not going to have an intense thunderstorm move through. You will, but the damaging wind potential is much higher further to the north. So our shear rate products, which we've been showing you all day, we're really starting to wind down. The main area of concern is on that northern edge, just to the south and east of Vaughn. Vaughn, the most intense winds, I know you're listening, is going to be to the southeast of you by about 7 miles. So 7 miles to the southeast, which is going to put it a couple miles to the north and east of Peggs, going to be pushing towards the east-southeast. And that's where we have winds potentially still to 60 miles per hour. So kind of bowing out. You can see that there just north of Highway 82. That's the area we're still watching closely. Also back down by Lost City, the potential for damaging winds, and that goes right across the lake, especially the south side of the lake, south of Highway 51 of Fort Gibson Lake. That is the area that we're also watching very closely for the damaging winds. And you can see just got a radar update. Hasn't really weakened too much. But man, Travis, from what we were watching earlier with winds in excess of potentially 80 miles per hour to what it is now, it's looking a lot better, but we're not completely out of the woods with it just yet.
That's right. And again, another update coming up at this point is that we're now over 10,000 customers with OG&E and PSO without power because of this thunderstorm. And we anticipated showers and thunderstorms. We've talked about it, but this just kind of got a little carried away and decided to have a little life of its own. And it started again earlier today in north central Kansas early in the morning and just slid to the south and then just moved kind of south-southeast through the time period. So this has had a long history, and in fact, we started picking up the potential for, and we had one tornado sighted. And then we had tornado warnings that went into northern portions of K County, and then we had severe thunderstorms. So you can see this, Lacey's put this into motion, how this has just continued to track and dive to the south and east. So this has maintained itself very, very well and is very intense and still going to town. And we still have that leading edge moving into Tahlequah with strong damaging wind potential. And then that will probably still manage to get into Adair County. Obviously, the warning goes in northwestern Adair County, but you can see the extent for which this line is coming through. Much needed rain, but that is also coming with a price for some. But we have cleared out a huge chunk of real estate now from Tulsa back to the north. There's a few showers still left in South Tulsa County, but if you're south and east of Tulsa, we're still under warnings. So if this is just coming in your direction, we're still going to be covering this, even though we're running out of time for our newscast. We'll be leading the newscast off here in just a little bit as well, with updates for the folks who are going to join us, who haven't been able to join us during the course of the afternoon. But we are going to continue to monitor what's going on. So we're down to one warning, but that does take in quite a bit of area. That encompasses, again, northern Muskogee County, northeastern half of Muskogee County, Cherokee County with the exception of Lake Tenkiller, and northwestern portions of Delaware, or I should say northwestern Adair County, southwestern Delaware County, and that leading edge right in this zone. So we still have heavy rain, thunderstorm activity. It looks like Vaughn is kind of in and out of some of that activity right now. But Vaughn, I'm going to come to you. Any new reports of any damage, or are we still doing okay? What do you have?
Man, kind of a spotty area here, Travis, but those were very intense winds along 412, just like Lacey was saying. I think the most intense winds are to my south, but we're going to drop south down here at Little Kansas and try to get in the middle of it as it moves towards Tahlequah, Travis.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it very much, Vaughn. So this is a situation still going on for these areas. So on radar and some of the velocities that we're looking at, and in fact where he is located and where Vaughn's located, he's just near the Rose area, and then that arch that you see now in the west central portions of Cherokee County. And we can go down city streets for just a moment here so we can tell folks, but as you look at it extending from Rose, Snake Creek, and then extending back down to near Moody's. These are some of the communities you can pick up on, Gideon. These are some of the areas where they'll have some strong winds. So we still have some 50, 60 mile an hour wind potential in some of these locations. So that's why the warning is still in effect, and you could still end up with some power outages. So don't be surprised. So here's a sampling of some of the data. So we're right on the cusp of that. So we're still running close to it. It's weakening some, so we feel pretty good about this compared to where we were. You can see the lightning strike totals are much weaker. That is some more good news. So hopefully this is going to be kind of gradually ending here, especially as and that's what we've felt that is happening. But this outflow boundary continues to show up, and we still have some wind potential. You can see we're at Fort Gibson Lake area. And so the 50, potentially 60-mile-an-hour winds. So hopefully folks got off the lake here in the Fort Gibson area. The next place that'll be hitting would be Lake Tenkiller. With time, the outflow looks like it's now running from just around the Tahlequah area and then runs back into the Fort Gibson area, south sides of Muskogee, and then you see the outflow boundary going to Wainwright. So you're getting a cool blast of air well in advance of the thunder showers that are showing up here. But some good rains across Okmulgee County, southeastern portions of Creek County. I mean, this is just nice. Once you get a little further south in Okfuskee County, down in southern portions of Okmulgee County, I'm a little bit jealous. I will admit that, because you've had rain. Looks like you're still going to get some rain. This might fall apart in this area because that outflow boundary is getting so advanced from the rain and thunderstorms. So that could be making a little impact on it, weakening the system a little bit. Still, good rains for that. And this is the last place that we have an area of shower and thunderstorm activity that's worth noting. Also, I wanted to point out the Grand Lake area. It has been raining off and on here for a while. And Lisa, I don't know if we can get to any rainfall totals or not, but there has been some pretty healthy amounts of rain that have fallen in some of these areas. These guys have had off and on rain for most of the afternoon. So as we look right around the Langley area, Grand Lake area, and then extending to Wyandotte, I mean, these are anywhere 2 to 3 inches of rain, and it just kind of stayed in the same spot. And so you guys could have some lowland flooding, especially areas that have low water crossings, which there are quite a few in this zone. So just if you have some friends that are headed home, make sure that they're aware that there's a couple of areas here around the lake. And in fact, the lake probably rose 2 to 3 inches just off of the amount of rain that happened. But we're looking at, again, a few of these areas more isolated than not, of just a ton of water that fell during the last couple of hours. So that could lead to some flooding or flash flooding, or at least lowland flooding. So that's what we're concerned with. Again, we're awful close to our newscast time, and I'm going to go back for a moment, and you can see some of the rainfall amounts, and you can see that core of the storm. This gives you a pretty good idea. So this kind of happened from Wichita, and then you kind of see how that green area, and that has been just the pain that has in the drain. You can see right where Tim's located, and that's where where we have damage. And so right along this is the worst damage that has occurred. Kind of a narrow band, but as we mentioned before, a semi was flipped over on 75, and this gives us a really good idea too. This is where the strongest of the winds have occurred, and so as you look at that happens from just west of Bartlesville around Woolarock, and then that moved on to the south and east, and you can see how it continues to push there. So that is a look at what's going on. We're going to have more information a little bit. Let's toss on over to Craig and Lori.
Thank you, Travis. You are watching News on 6 at 5 o'clock, and right now PSO reports more than 10,000 customers have no power after these severe storms. Most of those are in Tulsa County.
Our Oklahoma weather experts at the largest team of storm trackers in the state are watching this storm's every move. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Travis Meyer. Travis.
All right, thanks, Craig. Lori, we're just going to give you a quick update on what's going on here. If you're just joining us, I know a lot of folks joining us just for the top of the newscast. We've been following severe weather all afternoon. There's a lot of folks that have been with us this afternoon with that, but we still have one severe thunderstorm warning that continues in effect for about another 30 minutes, and that will be for areas from around Muskogee and extending to Tahlequah, and then back on over to just extreme south and southwestern portions of Delaware County. The leading edge of the rain and showers and thunderstorms have been running from around the Grand Lake area to Tahlequah to Muskogee and to Okmulgee. No severe weather in Tulsa at this time. No severe weather down in Okmulgee, but we do have some very, very heavy rainfall for you guys in that area. A little closer inspection on the rain and thunderstorms, with the most severe area location is again just running through central Cherokee County with winds still 50 to 60 miles per hour. Going to Links 3 to get a storm track on this, for example, we'll give you some information on exactly what's going on. Tenkiller Lake, if you have friends out on Tenkiller Lake, could be, before we even get to our regular weather scheduled time here at about 5:15 to 5:18, we could have some strong storms over the lake. Also some heavy rain and thunder with this. The lightning intensity has really dropped down. You can see the Stillwell area at 537, and also as we extend from around Tahlequah, which is literally knocking on your door as we speak right now. So these are some of the areas of the heaviest rain and thunderstorms, and this is going to continue to track to the south and east. Winds 50 miles per hour, possibly up to near 60 miles per hour. And that's a look at what's going on right now. We'll have more information, complete update in just a little bit, plus another update on the severity of these storms that we're following and tracking at this particular moment. Back to you.
Now it's naked photos and Bitcoin.
New at 5, police say a new scam uses embarrassing information to extort victims.
At least 4 people have reported this in Tulsa in just the past few days. News on 6's Aaron Conrad is live on the story with a warning.
Lori and Craig, this scam gets